मंत्र जाप करेंगे।
Jai Guruji, Jai Sangat Ji. Today, I'll be reading 2 series of satsangs from the book Light of Divinity. The first series of satsangs are by retired Brigadier J.S. Alag. Under the shelter of His grace. We came under Guruji's Sharan in August of 1998. I had been posted at Jalandhar from 1975 to 1984 and resided near Guruji's Mandir. But it was only in 1998 that he ordained that his blessings fall on me. I came to Guruji that year, and since then, there has been no looking back. In 1998, we were planning the marriage of my only son, who was in Dubai. Guruji asked me to bring my son's and the girl's photos, and he blessed these. Subsequently, my son's marriage took place in March of 1999. And it was as if Guruji had thrown a protective cover around all functions. I had just built my house in Noida and was short of money. But thanks to Guruji's blessings, the marriage functions went on well. The reception was held in Taj Hotel, Delhi. The official photographer covering the function was impressed. He remarked that he had covered over 500 weddings as a photographer in Delhi, and a brawl was inevitable, as in Punjabi weddings, liquor flows freely. But during my son's party, everything went smoothly. After another function, held at Vasant Continental Hotel, a few relatives were on their way to Noida when the minibus carrying them broke down. The ladies were wearing heavy jewelry, and it was midnight. But everyone reached home safe. The only kind, supreme power, Guruji, could have seen to their safety. Getting 10-year family visas for US. My son is a telecom engineer, and though he was in Dubai, he was not happy there. I would occasionally tell Guruji about this, and he'd ask me not to worry. My son and his wife were visiting India in January of 2000. I went to a satsang at Guruji's place on the 10th of January and carried 4 visa forms duly filled for myself, my wife, and son and daughter-in-law. I told Guruji that the children were coming from Dubai at midnight the same day, and that we would be going to the US Embassy in the morning for visa interviews. Guruji just said, Tera kalyan kar dita. You have been blessed. It was a drawn-out process. After all the formalities were completed at a window outside the embassy, one had to stand in a queue inside. Next, a senior counselor did a preliminary check and turned each applicant over to an interviewer. In the queue, I was in front, followed by my wife, my son, and daughter-in-law. When I reached the counselor and gave him all 4 passports, he asked me if I was Mr. J.S. Alag. I told him I was Brigadier Alag. He asked me if it was my girlfriend who was standing behind me. I averred she was my wife. It seemed as if Guruji was sitting there, as the counselor talked in a manner similar to his. Would I like a 10-year visa? The counselor inquired. I asked whether he would give that to all 4 of us, and he said yes. He told me to go to window number 1, meant for persons approved for a 10-year visa. Getting a visa for my son, who was a young engineer, was then impossible. But we all got 10-year visas each. At night, when we went to Guruji, he said, Ho gaya kaam? Is your job done? We touched his feet. It was a miracle. Saved from a car accident in the US. My son with his wife and our grandson went to the US on an H-1 visa in July of 2004. He was located at Los Angeles then. My wife also joined them in September of 2004 for a short visit. She kept a photo of Guruji in our son's car, as days before she had left, Guruji had so instructed us. That month, I went for a satsang at Guruji's ashram in Chhatarpur, and when I returned, my clothes were full of his fragrance. I changed my clothes again and smelt the clothes. They had an unusually strong fragrance. I went to sleep. In the next morning, on waking up, as was my usual practice, I phoned up my wife. My son took the call and told me that they had a terrible car accident. At a traffic crossing, their car had collided with another, but they were all safe. The car was a write-off. My wife said the collision had been so severe that our grandson, who was in his baby seat tied at the rear, was thrown out of his seat and landed in the arms of my wife, sitting next to him. She says she kept her eyes closed and dared not to see if the child was all right. When she opened her eyes, The baby smiled at her, and she thanked Guruji for saving their lives. On my next visit to a satsang at Empire Estate, I narrated this incident to Guruji. He smiled and asked me to sit down. He knew what had happened. My own near accident in May of 2006. We were invited to dinner by a friend, and while we were returning home, I was about to take a U-turn when a speeding car rushed on to us. It must have been doing at least 150 kilometers an hour. I immediately braked. At the last minute, the speeding vehicle swung clear of us, as if someone was protecting us. Had I turned completely, the car would have hit us from the rear. Even under normal circumstances, this car would have hit us from the side. I immediately thanked Guruji. Guruji's miracles keep happening. His protection is always there. The next series of satsangs are by Justice A.S. Gill, former High Court judge. In him lives Jyoti of Lord Shiva. I came in touch with His Holiness Guruji in 1986. Guruji is not an ordinary saint. He has in him the Jyoti, light, of Lord Shiva. Like Lord Shiva, Guruji is an epitome of love and compassion for human beings. Any person who comes to Guruji's darbar with faith gets cured. His Holiness Guruji conveys to his disciples the message of God Almighty. He preaches that God is one, and all human beings, irrespective of their caste, creed, color, and religion, are equal and are from the family of God. He preaches love for humanity and exhorts his disciples to help the needy. He has divine powers and he is omniscient. He knows the past, the present, and the future. He can predict coming events and has spiritual healing powers. He has performed godlike miracles to heal patients who have been declared incurable by the best doctors. Blessings all around. I've been the recipient of Guruji's blessings on numerous occasions. In 1987, my wife developed some internal growth. Doctors advised her to undergo an immediate operation to avoid the malignancy from spreading further. We came to Guruji to seek his blessings for the success of the operation and told him of what the doctors had said. Guruji gave her Amrit and said there was no need for an operation. Having full faith in Guruji's blessing, we did not opt for the operation. After 2 years, my wife felt a pain in her abdomen. A checkup at the Chandigarh PGI found no growth. She only had colic pain. Guruji, in 2 places at one time. In February of 1992, my mother fell very sick and went into a coma. She was 95 years of age, and there was no hope of her surviving. It was the 28th of February, and unable to look at the agony of my mother, I prayed mentally to Guruji, who was in Jalandhar, to come and give relief to her. It was 6:30 p.m. A moment after my prayer, Guruji came into our room through the front door, which was closed from the inside. We were exceedingly surprised to see him. Guruji asked my wife to bring a glass of water, which he blessed. He asked us to serve 2 spoons of the blessed water to my mother and assured us that my mother would last till 2 a.m. Guruji then left us, cautioning us not to come out of the room for 10 minutes. We came out after that interval and inquired from the police guard at the gate of Guruji's arrival. The guard had no clue. He informed us that nobody had entered the room, leave alone Guruji. I immediately telephoned Guruji's at Jalandhar and was surprised to know that Guruji was present in the Sangat at the time he visited us. After that, we served the blessed water to my mother and she expired at 2 a.m., exactly as Guruji had foretold. Guruji was therefore present at 2 places, the Sangat and our house, simultaneously. Shiva Darshans. My daughter is also a devotee of Guruji. In 1998, Guruji was staying in Sector 33, Chandigarh. Whenever she prayed to Guruji, my daughter always asked for the darshan of Lord Shiva. One morning, when my daughter got up, she was surprised to notice that every photograph of Guruji in her room had changed to that of Shivji Maharaj. She entered the drawing room and noticed that Lord Shiva was sitting on the carpet, close to the photograph of Guruji. But at the time, she did not reveal to us that she had had the darshans. In the evening, we visited Guruji. On coming close to Guruji, my daughter noticed a dazzling light around his face and could not bear the reflection of the holy light. She cried uncontrollably and was spellbound. She experienced the presence of Shivji Maharaj within Guruji. She remained under this blissful state for a week thereafter. We inquired from Guruji about her condition. Guruji told us that since my daughter had wanted to see Shivji Maharaj in all her prayers, he had fulfilled her desire. Healing waters. On the 29th of April, 1998, I fell down in my bathroom and broke 3 ribs. I was admitted to the hospital. On the 15th of May, I was referred to the PGI Lucknow, where the doctors took echo and ECG tests and said there was partial damage to my heart, the test revealing a shadow over it. The ECG confirmed their diagnosis. On the 29th of May, I got myself examined again by Dr. Mahesh Chandra, professor and head of cardiology department of King George's Medical College, Lucknow. He also took the echo and ECG tests and confirmed the findings. On the 2nd of June, I came to Guruji at Delhi and sought his blessings. I told him what the doctors had found. He asked for a glass of water, which he blessed, and then asked me to unbutton my shirt and sprinkled water from the glass. He pronounced me fully cured but advised a re-examination. A day later, I got myself examined by Dr. Karlopia, head of cardiology at the Armory Referral and Research Hospital in New Delhi. He also took the echo and ECG tests and gave me a clean bill of health, saying my heart was normal and there was no shadow around it. He was surprised when he compared the recent test reports with my previous echo and ECG reports. He said only a miracle could have happened between the 29th of May and 3rd of June. Otherwise, my heart condition could not have changed so drastically. When I returned to Lucknow, I showed my ECG and echographs to the doctors. They were equally surprised and said this change was not medically possible. I have been hale and hearty ever since. Such is the divine power of Guruji. Difficult ties. My brother-in-law and I jointly owned a commercial plot in Sector 35, Chandigarh. In 1998, I invited Guruji to lay the foundation stone of the shotgun flat. When Guruji came to the plot site, he was reluctant to lay the foundation stone, but on my insistence, he did so. Guruji then produced one gold sovereign from the air and gave it to me. He told me that I would profit, but would have a strained relationship with my brother-in-law. Soon after the construction of the building began, it had to be stopped midway. It was resumed after 1 year. When the building was completed, there was a dispute between me and my brother-in-law, and as a result, we stopped talking to each other. The building could fetch me 50,000 rupees as rent for my share, but we could not rent it out because of our difficult relationship. What Guruji had told us at the time came true after 4 years. I could sell my share in the building only with difficulty, but I did make a profit. Journeys without petrol. In 1989, I was posted at the Patiala district judge. Guruji came from Jalandhar to stay with us. For his return journey, I sent my driver with my private car. Though the petrol tank was full, I also gave 300 rupees to the driver for buying petrol in case it was required. The driver came back eager to share the details of a miracle. He told us that he had spent the extra money on petrol. But one day, when there was no petrol left in the car, Guruji asked him to drive the car. He told Guruji there was no petrol in the car, and he had no money. Guruji still asked him to start the car. He obeyed, and to his amazement, the car started, and the petrol indicator showed that the tank was full. He could not believe that the car was running without petrol. Thereafter, during all 5 days he stayed with Guruji, the car ran without petrol whenever Guruji sat in the car and asked him to start it. On the last day, Guruji produced 300 rupee notes and gave them to him, saying this was the sum given for buying petrol. The driver, Karam Singh, at the time of this writing, worked in the office of the Patiala district judge. Fulfilling desires. In 1987, I was posted at Ropar. One day I saw a photograph of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi in the newspaper. She was wearing a Rudraksh mala around her neck. I wondered if Guruji could give me one Rudraksh to me as prasad. After about 2 months, I went to meet Guruji at Jalandhar. He was sitting with the Sangat. He asked me if I wanted anything from him. I said no and that I was just happy with his blessings. He asked me to extend my hand. I did so, and Guruji placed a Rudraksh on my palm. He asked me if this was what I wanted from him. Guruji gave me the kind of prasad I thought of 2 months earlier. I've had the Rudraksh with me ever since. Guruji can fulfill the desires of his devotees even if they don't explicitly ask him for anything. Saving my son. My son was seriously injured in a motorcycle accident in 1999. He was alone and was brought back home by guards posted outside the Chandigarh house. I was at the time in Lucknow. He did not go to the hospital. All he did was keep Guruji's photograph by his bedside and have milk with turmeric powder and ghee. In the morning after the accident, when he woke up, he realized his injuries were serious. Blood had oozed out his ear. His neck and head were swollen so much that he was unrecognizable. The accident had taken place at around 11 p.m. and he was taken to the hospital the next day at around noon. The doctors were amazed that he had survived without any medical aid. He was immediately taken to the emergency ward and was found to have suffered a hemorrhage and a hairline fracture of the skull. Luckily, the blood from the internal injury had oozed out through his ear. The doctors were insisting on an operation, but he waited till we came from Lucknow late the next day. On the way, we contacted Guruji and told him about the accident. Guruji assured us of his blessings. My son, in the meantime, was kept under observation. Thanks to Guruji's blessings, the doctor did not feel any necessity for an operation, but due to the head injury, my son's face was paralyzed. Guruji sent us a copper tumbler that he had blessed. The moment we gave water from that tumbler to my son, his condition started improving. To the doctor's amazement, his paralysis vanished within 2 days. My son was discharged and was fully cured within a few days. Subsequent x-rays of his skull and an MRI showed no sign of any fracture or hemorrhage. My son has been perfectly fit and fine ever since. Such is the godlike healing power that our Guruji possesses. Guruji Maharaj has also blessed my son with a divine darshan of the Almighty Lord Shiva. There are many such miracles that Guruji has performed and continues to do so daily to help out the needy and the suffering. He loves the high and the low equally. His compassion shows no bounds. He who has faith in him can purify his life. If we have faith in him, he takes on all our worries. Guruji does not have any worldly needs. He shuns all offerings. He needs nothing. He has graced the earth to lessen our miseries. Have faith in Guruji and get his blessings. Jai Guruji, Jai Sangat Ji.